Hey everybody, Charles for HumbleMechanic.com, and it's Tuesday. So what do we talk about on Tuesdays? We talk about failed Volkswagen parts. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Volkswagen Mark 5 trunk latch. Before we get rolling into the in and out of this trunk latch, talk about the sponsor of the day. Today's sponsor of the day is Deutsche Auto Parts.com. These guys are the Volkswagen Audi parts experts. They have great prices, great service, incredible bunch of dudes. I know them personally. I highly recommend them. Check them out, DeutscheAutoParts.com. I have a link to their website and actually a link to the video they just did on how to replace one of these. So after you watch how this fails, check them out and they'll show you exactly how to replace it. Hey, so what do you guys think of my new setup, by the way? Little table that I built to do this kind of stuff on. This gives a little bit easier time for me than doing it inside of my toolbox. Because if you've seen the way I had to shove the lights into the toolbox, it's actually hilarious. But anyway, this is the Mark 5 Jetta trunk latch. This is actually the same trunk latch in a couple other cars. I know that some of the EOS vehicles have the same latch. I replaced two last week, so I know that for sure. Anyway, what kind of symptoms are you going to get when this fails? A couple of them, actually. One, your trunk may not actually latch. Two, your trunk might not open. And three, these are the three most common ones. Three, it may show open all the time in the MFI of the vehicle. So those are the three most common. There's probably other ways that these fail, but those are the top three. Odds are you're going to have an issue with the trunk not latching closed. That's absolutely the most common one. So the way this works is there's a rod in the trunk that sits like this. So when you close your trunk and it comes down, that's what happens. And now you can't open the trunk. So when it opens, there's a couple of ways. One, you can use the remote that activates this little motor here, which turns the wheel, pushes this arm, and pop, your trunk opens. Now, some of them have the button that you push. That's another way. It all activates the motor. Then there's the emergency release. That's that little glow-in-the-dark handle inside the trunk, so if your kid gets stuck, they're not trapped in there. And there'll be a cable on one of these too, and basically it's the same thing that happens with the motor. This arm turns, it pushes this piece right here, and that pops the trunk. So this is actually a pretty simple setup. Really easy to see. It's actually cool inside how it looks and how it works. So pretty simple. You can either open it electronically or mechanically, and then some of them actually have two cables where this will pull a different way depending on what kind of vehicle it's on. So how does it fail? So let's talk about the most common one first, where your trunk will not latch. Basically, that doesn't happen. You can see the latch right here. Right here, and I don't know that you're going to be able to see it on video, you can kind of see it on the tip of the screwdriver, is a spring. A lot of times when your trunk will not latch, this spring has either come off the pin or it's just gotten weak and it won't hold spring tension. You can fix these, but honestly, it's a pain in the butt, and I don't know how worth it is. But I have fixed a few before. It's easier, honestly, just to replace it. But if you're on a tight budget, you can hook that spring back on. The problem is the steel parts here are riveted. So you can get this apart, but you usually wind up destroying it. And then you're putting a trunk latch on it anyway. That's the most common way that these fail. But they do fail in other ways. This motor can fail. There can be an electrical issue inside the connection, which would cause the motor not to work. The motor can get just plain burned out. These are plastic gears, both on this white gear here and on this pintle that pushes the latch open. So plastic failure can happen at either one of those 2 points as well. It could, in theory, fail in somewhere in here, but odds are that wouldn't affect total operation of the trunk latch. The other most common way that this will fail is actually in the electrical connection here, or in the micro switch. And if you look right here, let me see if I can take this off. If you look right here, you can see a little steel tab. There's actually a switch. This is a micro switch. And this tells the vehicle computer whether the trunk's open or closed, depending on the position that it's in. You can hear it actuating there. I've seen these fail. That's semi-common. So you'll either get corrosion in here or a failed micro switch. That's pretty much the main three ways that this fails. Now, like I said at the beginning, Deutsche Auto Parts did a great DIY on how to replace this part. So I'll put a link in the show notes to make sure that you guys have access to that. You can check out how to replace this. But before we replace it, we need to diagnose it. So how do we go about diagnosing it? Let's start with the trunk won't close. The easiest way to diagnose this spring failure is to open the trunk and try and latch it with a screwdriver like I've been doing. And you get it just like that. If you can latch it, you probably have another problem. If it does this and it just flops around and it won't latch, your latch is bad, your springs come off, or has failed in some other way. Also, before you take this out, make sure you check the emergency release. I've seen a lot of times where people will pull it and it'll get hung, and I've had guys, try and look at replacing trunk latches. This thing's coming apart on me, and it was just the emergency, or the customer thought this is what it looks like when it won't latch. I just popped the spring off. Like I was saying, make sure you check the emergency release, because I've had them hung and it acts like the trunk latch has failed, but it's just, this is like half stuck, and it's causing it to hang just a little bit. What do we do when the trunk won't open? That's traditionally a motor failure. This you might need a little bit of diagnostic equipment, something like a test light. We need to check for power and ground in the connection, because this is actually disassembled. When you look at this part in the vehicle, it looks more like that, so you don't see any of the guts inside of it. So we want to check power and ground. Man, this thing's all kinds of coming apart. We want to make sure that the motor's turning on. It may have seized, or this nylon gear has been damaged, but a lot of times you won't see this unless you take this cover off and actually do a full inspection on it. Most of the time we know it's a bad latch. They fail enough that you just chuck it in the trash and then move on. Now, the failure in the MFI, this is actually a better shot of that micro switch. So this will indicate to the vehicle whether the trunk is open or closed, and that can cause issues with releasing it as well. So really just three main ways to fail, but it is a semi-common failure, and like I said, I replaced two last week, so I thought I'd pop one of these open for you guys, show you how it works, how it fails, how to diagnose it, and I'll put a link to Deutsche Auto Parts, and they'll show you guys how to replace it. So yeah, this is the Mark V trunk latch. Again, it does fit other Volkswagens. I know it does fit some EOS. It may fit other models. Make sure whenever you're getting a part, you have your VIN for your vehicle, just in case there's some kind of weird VIN split or something like that. Thanks for watching. If you guys liked the video, throw it a thumbs up. Don't forget to share it and subscribe on YouTube if you're watching there. You can also subscribe for email updates on the blog. I'm talking with my hands with my screwdriver. That's funny. Shout out again one more time to the sponsor of the day, DeutscheAutoParts.com. Check them out. Don't forget, you guys can follow me on the blog, HumbleMechanic.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you're not watching this on YouTube, you can subscribe and check me out on YouTube. Humble Mechanic is pretty much where I live. I'll put links to all that in the show notes, both on YouTube and on the blog. As always, if you guys have any questions for me about this trunk latch or anything else, feel free to post it in the comments section below. You can also fire me an email to charles@humblemechanic.com. That's my personal email, and I'm the only one that checks it, so don't worry about spam or anything like that. Anyway, guys, this has been the Mark V trunk latch. Again, any questions, comments, throw them down in the comments section below. And thanks for watching. I will see you guys next time.